Hey, you've got this part of the video. You've got the live unedited edition Home Gadget Geeks Thursday night. It's the 20th of February, 2025, I think. I don't know. Mike Wieger is here with me. Mike, I took some cold medicine. I'm not sure where I am right now.
Well, we'll just do
You're
our
gonna have to
normal
carry
timing
me.
up. Yeah, I'll just talk for a while. It'll be good. Man, you're
Ooh.
down and out, huh? For a few days.
Yeah, say that again.
You've been down and out for a few days, huh?
Yeah, I got like a week ago Wednesday, I started feeling it. Fever, um, chills, the whole congestion. Came home from work, got a blanket, put my feet up, like curled up like a burrito, and then sweated out the the fever.
Uh-huh.
Right? You just break it. You just like break it. And so the next day was fine, but then man, the congestion came on and I just could not. So then I did Trek Up the Tower a week ago. Like I did the 11, I did the vertical mile. Sick. Mistakes were made. Let's just be really clear. Mistakes were made. That that was
So
dumb.
instead of resting, you're exerting yourself.
Yeah, for 4
Yeah,
hours.
for 4 hours.
For
Yeah,
4 hours, about 3,500 calories worth of exertion, right? I mean, it's
yeah,
a
yeah.
marathon worth of exertion. So I probably set myself back, um, a week. I think I'd only been sick for 3 days, and I probably set myself back a week. So I have been and Ryan, we're gonna get to your question here in just a second, so hang tight. Uh So this week has been a lot of recovery. I did work out yesterday and today, which is nice. Just a lot of congestion. So I came home. I was like, okay, maybe I need to get some Mucinex to kind of start. And I thought that'd just be like, take it and it'd be, whatever. Holy buckets. Like, no wonder they have an age requirement on those things.
Put you down.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So, anyways, voice is a little choppy, but I think we'll be fine. We'll get there. Hopefully I won't start coughing during the time. I did podcast last week with Christian and we
Was
got
that your
through
first
that.
week
But
back from the break?
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I took a long month. You were on and I took 4 weeks off. One of them because
Yeah.
I was sick. That's the longest time I've taken off in 10 years,
Yeah.
you know?
I get to be
And
your
then
bookends of your break.
yeah, it was kind of nice.
Well,
Christian
a
last
week
week
after
and then
Christian.
this. No,
You have
this is
Christian
good.
back and
Yeah, this is
getting the
good.
gang all
This
back
is good.
together.
Yeah, no, it's good to have you back on. Yeah, it's cold here in Omaha. I mean, you doing okay over there on the west side of town? It's pretty chilly.
We need our boys to go back to school. It has
Yeah.
so last week they had a snow day on Wednesday. Thursday, Friday were teacher in service days. So they didn't have school Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Monday they went back, didn't have Tuesday. Um, Yesterday 2 hour late start, didn't have today. Tomorrow 2 hour late start. And it's just like they have no sense of any
Mhm.
normalcy right now.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's chilly.
Yeah, that's the hard part of that. And what's really interesting about this is we used to not like the cold weather wasn't a thing. I don't remember the kids ever having a cold weather day.
Right.
We had plenty of snow days, and I'm not complaining. Like now we just get cold weather days instead of snow days, it
Yeah.
seems. So but man, negative, I don't know, negative 11 when I got up this morning and wind chills like negative 40. You're like, yikes.
It's a little cold.
So yeah, you might need to Tony, you might need to defrost us here on the show. No, we got plenty. I don't know, Mike. I know you're still not drinking, right?
Nope.
You've
Yep.
been good. Awesome.
Been
Good for you.
good.
It's
Still on
not
it.
good work. It's not the temptation if I
Not at
share.
all.
Is it okay?
No.
All right, you're
No,
good.
not at all. Not at all.
You're good. I have gotten into monkey shoulder, which
What
is
is that? Is
kind
that a
of
whiskey?
it's a scotch.
Oh, okay.
It's a blended malted scotch. You can find it anywhere. It's $30. It's not peaty like you would expect, like a lot of people expect scotch to be peaty. About half of the scotches are not. So,
Okay.
this is one of those real sweet, real delicious, available everywhere. Monkey shoulder.
Hmm.
It's gonna be I don't keep a lot of scotches, but this will be one we have on on the in the bar,
Love it.
and if somebody's like, "Oh, you got any scotch?" Got some monkey shoulder, and it's just real reasonable. So
Nice.
it's got a great name too. So
I've been
got some
addicted to this really fancy. It's General Electric filtered H2O is what they call it. It's been coming. It comes right out of the fridge,
some
nice and
water.
cold. Some water.
General
It's
Electric,
electric filtered.
General
Oh,
Electric.
it's delicious. It's absolutely
It is
delicious.
pretty good. I
Yeah.
do. Okay, I do have a glass. It looks like wine. It's water. Let's just
There
be
you
real
go.
clear. In plastic wineware, and it's the cup I had down here. So
And people in the chat, I'm gonna apologize ahead of time for my audio. I have looked all over for the cord for my microphone, and we couldn't find it. I was even back behind my computer right before the show, right before we got on, and so I know this microphone is not the best, but hopefully it's a little better than it was earlier. Yeah.
Ryan had said needs that's you'll be fine. Need to know what printer Mike has. Picked up the Bamboo Labs a P1S and AMS at the start of the year. Absolutely loving it.
That is the exact one I have, Ryan. Good pickup. I love that thing. I think it's a perfect blend of high quality. It's not the X1 carbon, but it's still it does everything I ever needed to do. The enclosure is nice because you can do ABS printing, and the AMS makes all the difference, especially with working on this game. And I'll give an update a little bit with my dad. Being able to have all those colors just loaded in. I've actually thought about maybe getting a second or third AMS to have even more colors just on the ready. But yeah, it's fantastic. And I'm kind of along with you on the whole bamboo debacle. I thought it was a little overblown. To be honest, I think 99% of us users, me being one of them, use the bamboo slicer. We click print, and that goes through the cloud and back down to the printer. It actually takes extra steps to set up the LAN setup where you're avoiding their cloud. So I think people just took that news and ran with it, and they backed off on it. So
Mm.
I didn't put too much weight in it. So I still think bamboo makes the highest quality printers.
Yeah, Dave McCabe loves bamboo.
Yeah,
He's got I think a couple of those.
they're
So
fantastic,
yeah,
fantastic printers.
yeah. My son John picked up a 3D. I don't know what he picked up, but he picked up one to do. He does Warhammer stuff,
Oh yeah,
and so he wanted to print terrain with it. And so I don't know if he started yet. I think he's had it a whole year and he hasn't.
hasn't done
I
anything
don't know
with
if he's
it.
set it up yet. He's been painting a lot. He really got back into the painting side of Warhammer stuff, and so he's been him and my number 3 son have been talking every time they get together. It's cigars and Warhammer, and
Nice,
I'm like, guys, settle down on the Warhammer. Come on.
very nice.
All right, let's get started. Let me kick this off. We got a lot to update. Ryan, Tony, Justin, Brian, good to see you guys out there. Ken and Dan Lefebvre. Good to see you, Dan. Ken said he was out tonight. His daughter's birthday, so he is out tonight. So
It's a valid reason.
I think so. Hey, just a quick side note on that while we're talking about anniversaries this weekend, 36 years for me. It's crazy.
36.
Right? Yeah, it's Monday, technically Monday, but
Wow. You guys do anything special?
it's a long time. I think it's longer than you've been alive.
It is longer than I've been alive. That is true.
Uh,
Just by a
we're,
hair, but yes.
yeah, we're close. We're close. We haven't picked yet where we're going. We're going out Sunday night for something. So
Very nice.
yeah,
Yeah, Hannah and I just celebrated 10 years in
yeah,
January.
congrats.
So yeah.
Congrats.
Yeah.
Work. Yeah, good work. Yeah,
And then
she's a keeper. She's a keeper. You got to keep her around for a while.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
She
And
puts
then
up
fun
with your
news, we're
stuff pretty
actually
well.
expecting in July too. So
Oh,
another little
congrats.
girl joining the family. So we're pretty
Congrats.
pumped.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, little girls
Figure
worth
throw that
it.
in the pre-show. It's not show content, but
Yeah.
we're pretty excited.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thank
That's
you.
exciting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked to Christian last week. They're due, I think, next month. They're
Are they
due
really?
in
Is that their
March.
first?
So they're first.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's
And
exciting.
they don't know. They don't know.
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah, they didn't.
We have found out on
purposely
every one, and I know the point people say is like it's the last surprise you ever really get in life, and I'm like, yeah, I just hate surprises. So,
haven't.
and so does Hannah. So neither one of us really ever wanted to wait. So, yeah.
Oh, when are you due then?
Middle of July, July
Oh,
19th. No, July 19th. My
nice.
sister, July 20th, I think, something like that.
Okay. Yeah,
Hmm.
July. That's my brother's birthday. Yeah,
There you go.
nice.
Yeah,
Nice. Well,
it'll be fun.
congratulations. That'd be little girls are great. Like, you're
I'm
I
so
just yeah,
I have been calling it a girl since we found out. I'm like,
yeah,
we just got to put that into existence because between my boys and my brother and sister-in-law, we have 5 boys under the age of 8 in that
yeah.
family. So when we go down
You
to
got
the
a lot of
farm, it's
boys.
5 boys. We needed a
Yeah,
girl.
you
So
did, you did, you
yeah, so
did.
we're
You
excited.
deserved it. It took me 5 to get to a girl.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm glad it's only
mm,
taken me 3.
yeah, and then, like, s hold the bus.
Yeah.
Right, right? Just stop the press, those kinds
Yep.
of things. Do what it takes, but yeah. Well, congratulations, Brian says congrats,
Thanks, guys.
and I do as well. Yeah, Sammy has been like, I thought it would be great, and it was when she was younger, but the last 5 years have been really fun to spend with my adult daughter. So it's pretty
It's
great.
the best.
Pretty great, yeah.
Tony, you
Okay.
got called her bestie. That is high praise from a daughter right there.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
great.
Look at yeah. Tony said I have one of each tonight. My daughter said I was her bestie. It's pretty great when you can, like, well, for me now, if I'll in our we have a Discord family Discord group, and I can say, maybe 4 in the afternoon, I can say, anybody want to come over for cigars? And a couple, one at least one, maybe two, will be like, I'm in, and then they show up. Yeah, and
That's
that's been
great.
a little cold for that. We did get out in the Rusty Nail the other night. My neighbors Sunday night, my cross the street neighbor Josh pinged me. He goes, I can come out and play at 8. And I was like,
I can come out and
come
play.
on over. Come
Mom's
on
let me come out
over.
and play.
The Rusty Nail,
Yeah.
we'll turn the heat on in the Rusty Nail and get that. I've
There's a
got that
bar in
kind of
Omaha called the Rusty Nail too.
there is. I think there
Okay,
is.
that's where I
Yeah.
thought you were talking about it first. I'm like, you guys
No,
had
the
to come all the
shed.
way out west? That's
The
right by our
shed.
office.
No, I got this in the shed. I've got this jar of Rusty Nails that
Mm,
from pallets and stuff that I pulled apart. And so
got
we
it.
started calling it the Rusty Nail. And
Got it.
so much so the kids made me a sign on the door this year that says the Rusty Nail.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
yeah, it's super cool. Super cool. It's super fun. Okay. Here we go. Let me kick this thing off. What are we at? 12. Okay. This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks, show number 637 with Mike Wieger, recorded on February 20th, 2025. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home, news, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios in a freezing. Mike, I don't remember a string of negative days like we've had. Like, it's been -10 or below the last 3 or 4 days. I think tomorrow's the last day of it, right? Do you remember?
Yeah, I
That?
haven't either. Not this cold, right? Like
Yeah,
we'll have single digits a lot,
for
not
sure. Yeah,
negative 8, 10,
yeah.
12. That's not wind chill either.
Not
Like usually
and
we'll get down there with
no.
a wind chill, but it's just been frigid.
Yeah, -40 in some places with the wind
Yeah.
chill and, like, 4 or 5 days in a row. I don't remember it being this cold. I've been here 30 years, and I don't remember it being this cold this long. Now, Monday, 50. This is all Fahrenheit. 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So, we're gonna be out there. You know what Nebraskans do when you come off a cold streak and then it's 50? Shorts. You're gonna be turning the water on in your lawn.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We'll be getting the kiddie pool out. It'll be great.
Oh, yeah, the kids will be wanting to run around in their swim trunks.
We
This is
get the pool out.
great.
We've put the snow in there the day before, and the
I
next day you
know,
have a pool.
I know.
It's
Just
fantastic.
bizarre world. Anyways, we'll post the show with some world-class show notes at theaverageguy.tv. Big thanks to our Patreon subscribers. Thank you, or for those of you who are on the Patreon team. During my break, Mike, I did have one person drop. I kind of wonder, did they think I quit? I was gone for 4
Oh
weeks.
yeah. Do they think you stopped?
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Anyways, listen, Patreon is up to you. 1 month, as many months as you want. Many of you have been supporting me a long time. Thanks for doing that. Check it out today, theaverageguy.tv/Patreon. And then don't forget, you can use the affiliate link that's on the site out there at theaverageguy.tv. You'll see a little red banner. It says this site is supported with Amazon affiliate links, whatever. Click through. That's all you need to do. That sets your cookie for, I don't know, some amount of time. Doesn't matter to me. If you want it, I mean, it does. I appreciate you when you do it. But if you want to do that, check it out today, theaverageguy.tv. Big thanks to Christian, who joined us last week. If you haven't gone back, a lot of updates going on with Christian. Not only did he have LASIK surgery, I don't know if you got a
Mm,
chance to listen, Mike, but he
no, I
he
didn't.
did LASIK, and he's looking handsome. I mean, we used to say handsome Mike, but maybe it's handsome Christian now
There we
on
go.
there. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, and of course they're due in a month, so I told him, "Yeah, let's get into May and then we'll have you back on and catch up." But big thanks to Christian who joined last week. Mike Wieger is here, kind of bookend my break a little bit. Christian was in the middle of that, but Mike, good to see you back. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me back. I was excited when I saw, because usually for all the people in the chat and listeners, these are scheduled around my breaks in hockey. So if we ever have a random Thursday where we don't have hockey, I ping Jim. I'm like, okay, I have this coming up Thursday, and so this worked out. We had 2 Thursdays on your bookends that
Yeah,
no
yeah.
hockey tonight.
No, super good. I was supposed to actually, I was supposed to come over on Sunday and pick up the Meshtastic thing from you. I was on my calendar. I felt so bad. I was just like, I'm not going over. And then I figured you'd be probably busy doing something else
Well, it didn't
anyway.
even dawn on me until yesterday when I was
Yeah.
like, I saw a podcast. I'm like, wait, I thought he was supposed to come over before. Looked up at the family account. I'm like, oh yeah, it was
Yeah.
supposed to be Sunday. I should have
It's
reached
all
out
right.
to him, but you
Yeah,
being
I didn't.
sick.
No,
Yeah,
it was I didn't feel like going anywhere. It's super cold here anyway. So we
well, we're
never
getting
we
over
never
to you at
made it
some point.
together. But Kyle in our Discord group had asked the question, "Hey, what's going on with the board game? You talked about that last time you were on. Give us an update. What's going on? Is it ready? Are you guys Mattel or Hasbro now? Are you what's going on?"
We are close, and I feel like there's not even that much of an update since last time because I feel like we were working on the same thing. My dad and I have never taken any like physical item to market, right? There's just we've never done it before. We've never produced anything. So we've been trying out a bunch of 3D print farms to see who we like the best to put these orders in through. And we just keep running into like we'll order 3 batches from the same company and they'll all come out different colors. And it's like, well, our oranges kind of need to be oranges
Yeah.
and they kind of need to match, especially because we pair up 3D printed items with already produced items that we source. So we need the color to be relatively the same. And then the quality of the prints and just those sort of things. So we're kind of going through like a quality control thing right now. So much so that we thought about, do we just print them ourselves? Do we buy an extra printer and just have this be a super limited thing for now? Until we could afford injection molding, because that's really where you need to go is injection molding to get fit and finish and consistency. But we're still trying to make it work. So we've got a few other producers that we've been working with to try and get it done. My dad actually, right before I got on the show, he just picked up my latest prototypes. He's still finishing out some other pieces. So I had those printing. So we're really close. We've also come up with, there's going to be a travel sized version of the game that's a lot smaller. So we shrunk everything down so that you could, put in a bag and just play. So we've been things to add. The website is built, ready to go, looks great. We just can't make it go live yet because if we took an order, we couldn't fulfill it. So
Right. Right.
I will definitely let you guys know. I really appreciate you guys actually asking about that. It is exciting. This is my dad's retirement gig, like I mentioned last
Yeah.
time. So
Yeah.
he's having so much fun with it, and it's just fun to see him super passionate about something, and it's fun to do a project with your dad. So
No, for
yeah,
sure.
I'll let you guys know
Listen,
when we have the website live. I'll put it in the Discord.
you guys could never make a penny.
Oh
And it's
yeah,
worth every freaking cent you spent, right? Because you get to
yes,
spend all this time with your dad, and
yeah.
that's pretty awesome.
Well, and what we're
Yeah,
learning is like this is not going to be a money making endeavor. Production is just really expensive unless you
yeah,
go offshore
yeah.
or
Right,
unless
right.
you do a lot of things. So like the margin on these things is pretty nominal, very very nominal.
Yeah,
So much so that we're actually kind of disappointed in the price we have to charge because we think it's a little too high, and people are gonna think we're making a lot of money on it, and we're barely even
right.
scraping any
Yeah,
profit off. But yeah, it's a very fun world to kind of dive into and to learn about and
yeah.
learn on the fly.
Well,
So it's
it's
great.
hard to do these things. I think some people think, the world of entrepreneurialism is just like, I have an idea, take it to market, the money flows in, and you're like, no, doesn't
No,
work that way. Yeah,
not the way it works. Yep.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Ryan Kirshner says, the best 3D print farm is your own print farm. Sounds like you need more printers.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've watched some 3D print farm YouTube videos, guys that just show what they're printing and how they do it, and it's a process.
It
I
is.
mean, it is a
And
process.
you kind of what makes my dad and I such a good team is I love the printing side. I cannot CAD, anything. I can't design it. My brain doesn't work that way. I have no artistic talent. That's my dad. My dad hates messing with a printer. So when I tell him like, oh yeah, the print bed messed up and I lost that print, he's like, I'm glad you're doing that because that would drive me nuts.
Yeah.
But the problem is I don't have much time. And so I could have 10 printers, but I have to have the time to be able to do the printing.
Yeah.
So he
You
actually
need a third
found
partner. You need a third partner.
well, yeah, and not even a third partner, but he actually did find someone kind of like him and I, who just it's a guy in Kansas City, which is where they primarily live,
Right.
who just is a huge passion project. And so when he comes home, he does this on the side. So his
Yeah.
prices are really reasonable because it's just for fun. And he's gotten really excited about it. So this
Oh,
guy
good.
like really
Good.
is like, "Ooh, this is fun." So yeah, it's a good process to kind of go through.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, okay. Well, we'll keep, if you want to stay up to date on this, join us in the Discord group, theaverageguy.tv/Discord. Mike will post the link there. We can check it out. Mike, we, of course, will have to do some kind of launch show here. We'll have to figure out how do you show it, and like, how do we demo the game so that folks can
Yeah.
get a good idea
Yep.
for
I
it.
definitely
And
will.
then we'll encourage everybody to go out and pick up a copy of it, however that works. Get
Yeah.
it done.
It's great.
Will it be US only, you think, or will you be able to ship overseas once you're done?
We'll probably start US only,
Okay.
just to start out because that's where the manufacturers are going to be,
Yeah.
and shipping costs and everything. And then I think it'll be really fun. We're really trying to expand how many cities we have custom tops for because that's the fun part. So if you're in
Right.
like Kansas
Right.
City, St. Louis, Chicago, New York, we have the tops of buildings in your city.
Nice.
So that'll
Nice.
be kind of the fun part too. So we're trying to make sure we can really get us. We have Dallas and we have like so many, London and all these crazy cool cities.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, we'll keep friends posted here, and it'll be fun to keep track of that going forward. So thank
Yeah,
you for
appreciate it.
keeping us up to date on that as well. Hey, okay, two words I never thought I would ever hear coming out of your mouth. And I don't know why, but you said I've gotten totally into. Now, you're not going to believe what I'm going to say. Well, maybe you will. You know Mike Wieger. Ice fishing.
Yeah,
Seriously. Yeah.
yeah.
What's what tell me what's going.
Well, so here's the problem, Jim, and when you and I have joked about this all the time. When I get into something, I like have to
Oh
go
yeah.
all in.
Oh yeah, you do. You
And
go
to
ham.
your point, the weather here in Nebraska has been extremely cold, colder than
Right.
usual. My boys are to the age where being pent up inside for the whole winter is not good for mom and dad or the boys.
Yeah.
So we were really looking for things to do outside. And my cousin just so happened he's been doing this for a few years. He's like, Mike, you really got to come out with me sometime. You got to come try this. And I'm like, I don't know, ice fishing, man. You're out in the cold. He's like, no, 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 no. He's like, you're in a shack, right? We pop up this essentially like a deer blind is what it
Yeah.
looks like.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
insulated. You have a heater. I see. He goes, you don't even have you have your coat on inside. I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah. So he had us out. So I took the boys out. And the moment I set foot in that shack, I was like, I'm straight up addicted. And I think here's the reason. So for ice fishing, I've always really enjoyed fishing, but I've never had a boat or known anyone who has a boat. So I've always fished from the shore,
Yeah.
and it's always difficult, right? So with
Yeah.
ice fishing, you can go to anywhere on that lake you want. You drill right down, and when you ice fish, you use a sonar. So you drill your hole, you put your sonar in. It's like playing a video game, Jim. You're seeing the fish on the sonar and you see your bait and you see them swimming right up to your bait and you know right as they're about to bite and you can pull. It's and my son's kind of the same way because we only have one sonar right now and I might have to get a second one because he wants it in his fishing hole all the time. Because he's like, Dad, it's like playing a video game.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was kind of one of those perfect combos of it's outdoors in the winter, something to actually enjoy this cold weather for.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the technology part of it with the sonar and the everything has gone electric, which is also nice. So your big augers, right, that you use to drill the hole in the ice, those were historically gas
Yep.
augers. And
Yep.
when you run
Yep.
those in the shack, you have all the fumes you're dealing
Yeah.
with and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Those have all gone electric now. So you have a big
Nice.
battery, just like you do your power tools, and it's fantastic. So there's like a little bit of a tech angle there too of how far that's come. But man, it's been the most addicting thing.
What are you using to heat? Like, so you got the shed.
Yep.
It holds 4 maybe, right? Something like that.
Yeah, I got the double one, so it holds
Okay,
like
of
6.
course.
Yeah, I've had
Of
about 6
course.
of us out there.
Yeah, okay,
It's pretty
4 to
big.
6 what are you heating? How do you heating it?
Mr. Buddy heater, just
Oh,
those
yeah.
those ones with, and
Uh-huh.
some days, depending if I'm going out for short or long periods, I'll use the small tanks or take a big propane tank and the adapter.
Yeah.
Because the way you do it is you essentially buy a sled, like a big utility sled. You load everything in there and you drag that sled out to your spot. And so you've got your hut in there, your heater, your fishing poles, your tackle box,
Yeah.
everything in this massive sled, and you're trucking it along. You have a rope around your waist and you're heading out there. But yeah, the heater, I will say, I think is something I probably need to upgrade for next year because I'm already
Okay.
planning. Because it, although we had crazy good temperatures for ice this week, by next week this will probably be the last good ice fishing
Yeah.
weekend,
Yeah. Yeah.
for it to be safe to be out there. So already looking forward to next season. I'm kind of planning out, okay, what adaptations, what things do you want? Yeah, different heater. The Mr. Buddies, I have the single pane is what the way I call it. They have like the pane that
Yep.
heats up.
Yep.
Then there's the
Yep.
double, and then
Yep.
there's the one that has the cylinder that heats up
Yeah.
and the whole
Yeah.
thing around it. And
Yeah.
I think a bigger heater would be good.
Mr.
The
Heater, right? Mr. Heater,
Yeah, the
big
Mr.
buddy.
Heater.
Yeah.
Yep,
That's what we have in
yep.
the shed, the smoke shack, the rusty nail. It has a big buddy heater in it. So,
And
yeah.
is that the one with the cylinder that heats up?
No, this is the flat one. Looks like looks like an old radio. It's got a handle on
Yep.
top. It's got the grill on front, 2 plates.
Yes.
They
2
make a
plates.
single plate or a
Single's
double
what I
plate.
have.
Okay.
And it's
Yeah.
it works.
Okay.
What makes those things crazy efficient is if you get the heat powered fan and put it on
Yes.
top.
Yes.
That's a
Yeah.
game changer for
Yep.
those.
Yep.
Really sends that heat out. Because otherwise, especially in an ice shack, that heat's going straight up. And
Right.
in an ice shack, you have 2 little vents to allow fresh air in. That heat's just going up and out.
Yeah.
So having that fan, and
Moving it around.
talk about a piece of technology that still blows my mind. I don't know how a heat powered fan works, but it
They're
is the
great.
craziest concept to me that
Mhm.
heat is what powers that fan to spin. They've been around forever, right? Like
Yeah. Oh,
people use
yeah.
them on wood
Yeah. Yeah.
fired
For
stoves
sure.
and in
Yep.
houses. And
Yep.
it was the first time I'd ever had to use one. And I just thought it was the
They put
craziest
off
thing.
some serious heat. Like I've got a fan. So in the rusty nail, I've got a fan that sits. It's a little fan, but it sits over the big buddy heater, and I reach up, turn it on, and the goal is to get the hot air at the top, then push it back down to the bottom, right?
Hmm.
And man, my jeans will get a little get a little toasty, like if you got that thing on at all. And so that's a very good, and
So is that
it'll
powered by the heat or is that a battery powered
no,
fan that you've got?
it's electric
Oh,
powered.
okay. It's
It's got
electric powered.
it's little
Got it.
USB, so a
Yeah,
little
okay.
USB into a plug and stuff I
Yeah.
could run it off anything, but, no, I thought about getting some of those, and then I actually found, I installed the air conditioner in there last year, for the summer, so I could be out there in the summer with the air on, and then I thought, "Why am I not just turning that heat air conditioner on?" But just leaving the AC off and turning the fan on, and that
Yeah.
fan does a
Makes
nice job
sense.
of blowing that air right across the thing, and it's just beautiful that way. However, I was out there on Sunday, and I was out there last Friday, maybe, or maybe it was Monday night. I think it was Monday night. Frozen solid. That fan is not coming on at the moment. Yeah, it
Really?
is. Yeah,
That cold
frozen.
out there.
Turn it on. You
No.
saw you hear, you know. So, I mean, because it sticks out the back of it's a window air unit, right? So it sticks
Got
out
it.
the back of the shed, and it's super frozen. Yeah, those are great heaters. They're good little. I bought. Listen, I bought the ones that you put on top of your propane tank. That's got the round, like you say, it's got the round burner on it. And I bought
Yeah.
the. Those are always getting recalled, by the way, all the time.
Are they really?
Yeah, they're super dangerous. I don't know if I would use there's ones with double. I like what you're talking about. There's a cylinder one that they make, and then the 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 single pane and the double pane big buddy heaters.
Yeah.
For those situations, they're light, they're easy to move around. They used to, by the way, have fans in them, and they took them out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they took them out. I don't know what.
Hmm.
They must have been a design problem or something, but they used
Well,
to
the
have
third party
fans.
market for them is great because the one I
Yeah,
got was $17. It's even got the little latch. It goes right onto that grate,
yeah,
and then as soon as it
yeah,
heats up enough, it starts
yeah.
spinning, and it
You
works
worry
well.
about falling through. I mean, okay, you're creating heat, you're
Yeah.
sitting on ice. You worry about it all that ice giving way and you going into the lake?
N- Not if you do it safely. So
Okay.
the way they say is you need at least 4 inches of ice to have people. out there. 4 inches, you're more than solid. Anything more than that, you're great.
Yeah.
You can start driving an ATV on it around like 10, right? And then people
Okay.
obviously up in the cold, they drive their
Yeah.
SUVs onto those things. Um, as it gets thinner, and like as the weather, it's kind of iffy ice. It's called spud bar. So you just have a big iron bar that as you're walking out, you're kind of stabbing, and if you can notice it crack at all,
Yeah. And
you
you turn
avoid
around.
it. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's a little scarier when there's snow on top because you can't see.
Right.
So I don't that's a little scarier.
Yeah.
And the snow insulates the ice, so actually the ice builds slower with snow. So we even though
Right.
we had
Right.
great temperatures this week, that layer of snow on top
Yeah.
insulated and
We
we
had about
didn't
4 or
grow
5
as much
inches.
ice as much.
Yeah.
But even last week when I was out there, so you drill and then you have a spoon to get all the ice out of the hole. It has a measuring tape on it. So we were
Oh,
at
good.
7 to 8 inches last
Yeah.
weekend when we were out there. So more than enough.
Oh, this week you could. I'm sure it's even thicker now. It's been
Yeah,
so.
it's probably gonna be 10 or
It's
12.
it's been so cold. The one thing with the weather that's changed is we used to go long periods where the cold was consistent. So it was like 20 or 15 or 10. And we'd go 45, 50 days where it would never get above that temperature. It would be,
Mhm.
it would be 5 at night, 15 in the afternoon type deal. What's really changed in the last 4, 5, 6 years or decade maybe is the wild swings in temperature. So, negative 20 and then 50 2 days later, right? I mean, we see a lot more of that happening as well.
Which is
So,
not good for, like, things, meaning, like, those drastic temperature changes for homes and for cars and for anything outdoors, that's tough on stuff to have
yeah,
those big swings in temperature.
it
The only
is.
other thing I'll say is, for the one person that listens who thought about getting into ice fishing, the cool part about the electronics part for the sonar is in the last few years, they've come with a new technology called Live Scope, which is essentially it looks like an iPad screen, and it's more 3D kind of is the best way I can describe it. You can actually see fish moving towards like left and right and
Oh,
towards you. It's like having a camera kind of. They have cameras too, but this is still sonar. What that has done is it's made the regular sonar that just kind of shows pings at different heights. Right, like, oh, I can see something's at 15 feet, something's at 20 feet. It's made that really cheap. So the live scopes, you're going to spend 2 grand to 5 grand on a live scope. I got a Garmin, just regular sonar for 180 bucks.
hmm,
Right. So it's made those extremely affordable. So it's kind of a good time to get into it if you want to. Now, as soon as you get it and as soon as you see someone with a live scope, you're going to want the live scope.
yeah,
But I just went with the cheap one and it works great. It's the same thing. You see where the fish are and it
yeah,
works.
yeah.
Yeah.
Does the gear change? I remember going out as a kid with a pole. Still a pole? Is it shorter? Do you
Much shorter
need?
pole.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I actually got you either they make actual ice fishing rods which are shorter. You could even just use a kid's rod depending on what you're trying to catch. Around here, we're not Minnesota, right? We don't have huge northern pike. We don't have massive walleye. We don't have lake trout that are huge. So you're catching bass, catfish, a lot of panfish. We did a fish fry this past weekend. We went out and I had the day off, so we caught over 100 fish. It was wild.
Really?
Yeah, 3 of us in
Wow.
there,
Wow.
for a few hours and caught over 100. So we fried up some crappie and some bluegill. But yeah, so shorter rods, and then the big thing with ice fishing is you're using like a tungsten jig. Tungsten's really heavy, so it falls quicker because you gotta think you're just straight above the
Yeah.
spot.
Yeah.
So you're not using bobbers, you're not using lures in the traditional way you would normally use a lure, where you're throwing it out and casting it back in. You're usually just jigging with a jig or spoon or something like that. And then they
That's cool.
love wax worms. So wax worms and maggots are really what you're using. You're not using worm. You're using the little tiny maggot-y wax worms things.
Oh,
So
wax maggots, not real maggots or
real
real maggots.
maggots.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. They're red.
that's
They're
why I'm
actually
not good at fishing.
they're
Let's just
still in
be
my
right there.
fridge upstairs
Oh,
in the
yeah, yeah,
container, but they're
yeah.
tiny. I mean, these things
No,
are
I
super
know,
tiny,
I
and
know.
they're red too. So the red maggots are what the
Oh,
crawfish just
yeah.
love them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. That's cool.
Next season,
Well,
I'm gonna get you out there. That's where we'll meet up
no,
next season.
no, no,
No?
I haven't.
You
No,
you
no, I'm good. You
really?
can, yeah, no, I just don't. It's cold. My feet get cold. I don't like fishing. No,
You don't
no,
like fish? There you go,
no.
okay.
Listen,
'Cause I even lay the rubber mats down, so your feet
yeah,
is on a nice insulated mat,
right.
and it's
Yeah,
hot. We have
no,
our
I know.
coats off. We're just you could be in short sleeve
Can we
shirt. It's like
smoke cigars in
65
there?
degrees.
Is there smoke
You probably
cigars in there?
could. Yeah, you
Well,
could. Why
maybe
not?
maybe maybe that'd be the
All
well,
fish, you smoke a cigar. right?
no kids at that point,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
we'll can't have Harrison taking on
yeah. Right.
secondhand smoke. Um,
Be like, Jim, pass that over. Let me take it. Let me
yeah,
take it.
Harrison's
You
like,
know.
Dad, can I?
Yeah.
And you're like,
Hi, can I
no,
Yeah.
no. Justin says in the chat, he says, we're talking about my AC unit in the smoke shack. He says, does your ACs there not have reverse cycle heat pumps? Basically, all the ones here, except perhaps some of the large commercial ones, have a heat cycle. Ours are pretty much all heat pump style units. Yeah, we have those as well. But they're way more expensive. And when you can buy just window air conditioners, right, that don't have the heat pump, very reasonable. As an example, I have a mini air conditioner. I mean, it's a 10 by 12 space, so I have a small air conditioner. It was $119 for the air conditioner. Heat pump, to the minimum 6 to 1,000 to put a mini split in there, and it's just more complicated that way. I just now would I do a heat pump now? Probably. Like if I now that I know, like, oh, you know what, this would have been a lot easier if I just would have had a air conditioner and a heat pump to give me some heat in there, but it works just fine, to have the air unit. In fact, if I were doing it again, I would put the air conditioner maybe right behind the heater so that heat blows, that the air conditioner would blow and you just turn the fan on and then the heat comes on. So yeah, Justin, I thought about doing a heat pump. Um, it was just cheaper to buy an air conditioner only. I was only worried about cool air at the time. And then I actually bought one this summer when the power went out and we didn't have the house wired quite yet for whole house power. I bought one to 110-volt version so I could at least have something running in here to keep it kind of, it's a super efficient air conditioner. So that'll replace when I burn out the one in the the current one that I have when it takes on too much cigar smoke. I'll replace it with that one as well. So Justin, thanks for that question. Well, we'll keep up with you, Mike, on the ice fishing. Let's get an update from you. You kind of had been going down the path of one server to rule them all, so to
Yeah.
speak. You got me thinking a little bit about that too. I spent a little time after the show, like, now I have a pretty nice, I built a pretty nice rig that's got a GPU in it. It's got 128 gig of RAM. I've got plenty of space, hard drive space on it. I've put some spinners in there. I mean, the hard drive space is pretty cheap right now. So if I wanted to upgrade it, I could. Where are you at with that? What did you find out?
Yeah, still the plan is to go one server rules them all. I think I've narrowed it down. I think I'm gonna go with that HL15, that server chassis. I have suffered enough, Jim. I've put in the work. I put in the time of suffering with really crappy server rack cases. The one I have now, it holds 15 drives, but there's no backplane to it, so it's all the individual. Right, I have the HBA card. I have all those cords running, and they're finicky. And even last week I was dealing with issues with that cord got a little too close to the GPU, and my hard drives were starting to flake out on me, and it was driving me nuts. And so yeah, you have a pulled up here, and I think it's just time. They're expensive. They're not cheap. That just the chassis with a backplane, no motherboard, no CPU, is $900. um
Oh,
yeah, it's a lot.
yowza!
It's a lot.
Wow.
So that's why I haven't pulled the trigger yet. I mean, this is one of those you have to save for. So not just a spontaneous, talk
Yeah.
about it on the show and buy it. But the chassis is fantastic. Comes with the backplane I would need. And then right now, I've been slowly, because I run Unraid. Best part of it Unraid is you can slowly upgrade your drives. So I've gone through from 2 to 4 terabytes, and now I have 3 of the 15 I have left are 4 terabytes. So I've been going to 12. So I have 12 terabyte drives in there now. I think if I did this, I would go ahead and get 20 terabyte drives and just start with that. But even there, right, I'm going to spend $1,800 on hard drives just for 6 of them, because those 20 terabytes are
Yeah.
about $300
Yeah, they
still
are.
a
Yeah,
pop.
they
So when you
are.
have to buy them all at once,
Yeah.
so I mean we're talking about a $3,000-ish server at this point, and we haven't even added the motherboard and CPU, which is tough. And
Yeah.
so it's I've kind of narrowed down to exactly what I want, but I've been doing some different things to tide me over. Because really, what the reason I haven't pulled the trigger is because I'm not running in, like, I don't have a bottleneck today, right? I don't have a need for that. It's just ease and simplicity of servicing it would be really nice, but I can't justify $3,000
Yeah.
on a
Yeah.
new server right now.
Yeah.
But what I have been doing in the meantime is still similar concept, but I've been getting away from virtualizing things. So you
Oh,
know me, I need a new project, so I have physical boxes for everything, and then I start virtualizing everything, and I go back and forth. And I was at a stage a few weeks ago where everything was virtualized. I had my PFSense router was virtualized on Proxmox. Um, my TrueNAS NAS, so Unraid's my main box. I do have that, but my other NAS was TrueNAS. That was virtualized in Proxmox. Everything, Frigate, all of my security camera stuff, everything was virtualized. And so I looked at my hardware and I said, you know what? Like, one of the benefits of not having gone one server to rule them all is I have a lot of boxes. I have a lot of things I could take this all back, not virtualize it. And I think the biggest pain point for me was Proxmox. When everything's in a cluster, it really likes it when everything's on the same version. So if I want to update one of my boxes, I've got to update all of them, and that means my PF Sense box is one that needs to go down. And when internet's down, I went to do an upgrade last week. Within 90 seconds of taking the router offline just to do something, I had 3 text messages, and my kids had run downstairs. The text messages were from people that were trying to use Plex. Hey,
oh, yeah.
is Plex down? And then the kids were like,
Yeah.
Dad, the movie's not playing. What's going
Yeah.
on?
Yeah.
So I just, as much as I can get away from that as possible. So I had an R210, like a Dell R210, that had just been collecting dust in the server X still. When I went away from a PFSense physical box, I stopped using it. I had gone onto the Zima board, but I was like, you know what? Let's go back to that. So I took the PFSense box back onto the Dell R210, and then I had bought last year, just off a whim, Facebook Marketplace. Some guy was getting rid of a bunch of his homemade servers like we make, and one of them was a cool chassis that had 6 hot swap bays on the front. I've never had hot swap bays, even with any of my servers. So I did grab that last year for cheap. He was selling it for like $70 with
Oh,
some hard drives, with some hardware in there.
yeah.
He's like, I just want
Yeah.
it gone. The case alone, I looked it up, was like a $300 case. So I took TrueNAS and put that, and I actually have a
Oh,
physical TrueNAS box now. And what I will say is, one thing that I have started to dabble with Unraid, because Unraid's been starting to add it to their system, is ZFS.
yep.
Now, everyone here is super familiar with ZFS, I'm sure, but for me, it's something I haven't played around too much with because it's very new to Unraid. It's not how Unraid has historically run their pool. And one of the cool parts about doing this now, Jim, is especially with TrueNAS, with Electric Eel, which is kind of their latest software. They have added a lot of the new features that ZFS has released. The biggest one being, you can now add single drives to your pools at a time. So you can expand that ZFS pool by one drive without having to replace all the drives in it, without having to add a whole new VDEV. You can just extend the VDEV. So that's something new. And then TrueNAS implemented that at the end of last year into Electric Eel, which is their latest. So it's kind of a good time for me to start playing around with ZFS. And then 2 of my main pools in Unraid, my app data and things I use for Docker and VMs, are ZFS pools. And so ZFS replication is just a breeze. I love it.
Oh,
Snapshots and ZFS replication. So essentially, what that TrueNAS box has become for me is a backup destination. It reaches into Unraid, it grabs what it needs. For ZFS, it just does the ZFS replication from the snapshots. For all my other pools in Unraid, it does an rsync clone, pulls it all in. And so I have a local copy there, really fast. And CFS is just like a TrueNAS box. That storage is fast.
mm,
I have 6 hard drives, 6 4 TB hard drives. I have an SSD cache on there, which I've come to learn after learning a lot about ZFS. The read cache is actually not that beneficial. I maybe should look at putting a log in there as well. But it's extremely fast. So that's a local backup destination. And then what I also love about TrueNAS is a TrueNAS to TrueNAS backup is also drop dead easy. So what I
mm.
did was I took a really small PC, and I did this a while ago, put it at my in-laws' house, and I put TrueNAS on that box. And then setting up a TrueNAS to TrueNAS backup is extremely easy. So that's been kind of my use case for TrueNAS. TrueNAS also went to Docker instead of Kubernetes for their apps to, like, when you're the app store on TrueNAS, when you want to
Yeah.
run Plex or whatever. So I did switch my Frigate, which is still what I use for my DVR for the house, or sorry, NVR for my security cameras. I do run that on the TrueNAS box. But what I've really liked about TrueNAS, it's just a really good NAS platform. I still prefer to run apps on either Unraid or the rest of my Docker containers just run on a Docker VM on Proxmox. But TrueNAS is just, they have that storage down to a science.
Mm.
Replications, backup, like that. It is just a rock solid platform. And right now, even I'm good. It's right now. It's resilvering. It's expanding the pool because I found an extra 4 terabyte drive. I'm like, ooh, I can shove it in the box and make it bigger. And those sort of things just weren't options with ZFS a few years ago. At least not in TrueNAS, they weren't. So
True.
that's been kind of the project.
Yeah.
Really.
No, TrueNAS Core. Are you using the Core version?
Scale. No, I'm using Scale. So I'm
Okay.
using the full Linux version. I figured if I was, and that's where Electric Eel and some of those allows you
Yeah.
to get some of those features. I haven't had any issues, but to be fair, I'm not a good person to ask because I've never run Core. Ever since I got interested in TrueNAS, Scale has been around.
Okay.
So I've either been Unraid or TrueNAS Scale. Have you ever run either TrueNAS Core or Scale in
I
your
have not.
environment?
I have not run either. I've been looking at TrueNAS though. I've got a box that had Windows 10 on it. I updated it to 11 through the hack. Now
Mhm.
it's given me like, well, we're not going to send updates to you because it's old hardware.
Yeah.
And so I've been thinking like, okay, do I throw on a Linux version of something here? Do I just do Ubuntu desktop? Do I look to TrueNAS? Do I do there's a couple, there's a couple versions of home server stuff that you
Mhm.
can use, pretty easy to use. What's crazy is I forgot how Linux and Mac OS are almost identical in so many ways. Like
Yes, they
it
are.
had been a while since I had run anything Linux, and I boot that thing up and I'm like, oh, this looks like the Mac. Like this really looks like the Mac. And so it was like, oh, I know where everything's at. Okay, this makes total sense. So I even did a Fedora
Mm.
instance just to kind of see, hey, what does this look like? What are they doing? What are these now? Just to see, well, if do listen, I'm going to run this Windows box till it absolutely doesn't run anymore. But I thought it'd be good to have. So I looked at TrueNAS as maybe an option for that box. It's got 5, 10, 13, 14 drives in it. So it'd be like I thought about Unraid, but then it's like $100 a year or maybe $200 a year because you're
A year now?
well on Unraid. I think that they switched to a annual
Oh, I don't know. I'm
per
grandfathered in if
drives.
they did,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
mine, I still have the same license I've had forever. Is it
Maybe
an
it's
annual subscription now?
I thought maybe they moved that direction and they pulled back. I don't
Oh,
know.
I don't know.
Anyways, it doesn't matter. It's a free box right now. So I'm kind of like,
Yeah.
it'd
Are
be
all the
nice.
drives the same size?
No, no,
No.
no. But I don't need them rated. I just a bunch of discs is fine with me.
Got it.
I just need them. I'm using StableBit Drive Pool, an old piece of software from our home server days, to pool it to a single drive so that it can be seen by the miner, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole purpose, right? So that Chia can see it. And so it's not a lot. I don't need a lot, but I don't want Unraid for something like that. I don't need all that overhead. Not that Unraid's a lot of overhead, but I don't need all that NAS stuff. I really just need the drives exposed. And if I can pool them, awesome.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So then TrueNAS would be great if your drives were the same size.
Yeah.
I-
Yeah, that's the NAS.
And
That's
yeah,
the NAS problem, right? As
that's
you
the
go
NAS
into
problem.
that.
Except for
Oh,
Unraid, right? That's where Unraid's fantastic, is they don't
yeah,
have
no,
to. That's
true.
what I've
No,
loved about
true.
it the whole time.
True. Yeah.
Um,
I looked at Open Media Vault. That was another one that I looked
yeah.
at, which was, again, these are all fallouts from the old home server days. And so I don't know. Well, it still works. So I'm not necessarily in a hurry to replace it. Do you
That would
think
be interesting to learn. Like, does
Mm,
StableBit exist on Linux, or do they
no,
probably have something
Windows
similar?
only. It's Windows
Okay.
only. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
Windows only.
See, those are the fun projects I like. I'm like, ooh, now I get to learn how does someone on Linux do this? How
Yeah.
do they pool all their
Yeah.
drives together when they need them?
Well, and to be honest, Mike, I thought like, okay, maybe because it's a self-contained box. It's got, the board itself has 6 SATA connections, and then I have a backplane in there that's PCIe backplane, and I think that has 8. So I would need a board that have PCIe,
Mm-hmm.
which okay, every board has that,
Yeah.
and enough SATA ports, and then I thought, well, maybe I'll just upgrade that to a new modern, fairly inexpensive motherboard, chip, and memory,
Mm-hmm.
because the current board only has 8 gig on it today. So like there's not a lot I want to do anymore with 8 gig of RAM for the most part.
Right. No.
So, modern board, I don't need to go 128. I could go 64 and that'd be plenty. And so
Yeah.
we're $200 or so for a board, chip, and maybe 3 memory, right? And then pull the old stuff out, put the new stuff in, slap the PCI card in there for the backplane, and Bob's your uncle at that
Yeah.
point. I'm $300. And I don't need, I could probably get away with an AMD chip on the thing, a Ryzen 5, kind of what I've got in my current gaming rig, or the virtualization rig, so to speak. So I've been thinking about that too. And then I'm like, well, I'm going to run this thing till it runs, till it stops, till it stops running. Like
If
I
it ain't
don't,
broke, why break it?
yeah, I don't do anything on it. It just needs to
Right.
run. So
Yeah.
do I need to worry about security patches? It's got Windows 11. Although, that doesn't matter if they stop patching it. So I'll have to figure out. Listen, Microsoft's confused about what they're going to do with these Windows 10s boxes that don't meet the TPM and the processor requirement. They got really relaxed on it for a while, and they're like, "Oh yeah, just change this registry edit and put 11 on, it'll be fine." Then they were like, "No, actually, we're not going to let you do that." And so the most recent update I got to that box that I upgraded with the little hack on it, which was their hack, by the way. It's not somebody else doing it. This was their hack, right?
Yeah.
They published this. I get this little warning message, and it's a fix. It's an update fix, and when it goes to fix it, it scans the computer for the TPM requirements. Then it says you don't have TPM. Sorry. And so those are confusing messages for Microsoft.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this and you still have a Windows 10 box, I would have told you 3 weeks ago, don't worry about it. There's ways to upgrade to Windows 11. You'll get updates. It'll be fine. Today, no, I think the kind of like our government has changed rapidly. Microsoft has changed rapidly, right? And
Yeah.
they're kind of like, yeah, I don't think we're going to let you do that now. And so I don't know. It's one of those kinds of things. Mike, let me ask you this question. Okay, so the box that I'm running this Windows thing on now is a Core i3 550 or whatever. It's 12 years old. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
old. Runs great, right? I mean, it does its job. Do you replace it, or do you just limp it along doing the best you can? Or do I install Linux on it? What would you do?
That would become, well, I mean, it's exactly what I almost did. That became my TrueNAS box. So maybe you do an upgrade, but I always keep that hardware because that's great NAS. That is a
Yeah.
perfect
Yeah.
NAS system,
Yeah.
right? But I mean, kind of to what you said. So I've had this iMac since, what year would I have gotten this iMac? 2012. So it's
13.
13 years old.
Yeah.
And it runs like a dog with the old Mac software on it. So last month I went and put Ubuntu on it. Man, Linux has a great way of making hardware feel new again.
It does.
And
It really
Mac and
does.
Windows love making your hardware feel old,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so, because Mac, I couldn't do any of the new stuff on it, and it couldn't even install the latest version of Chrome. It was like, yeah, you're done. I'm like, but it's not a bad machine, and with the iMac, it's such a nice screen that I'm like, I still want to use this. And really, what I use it for is ham radio. It's literally shoved in a closet. My ham radio is attached to it. I log my contacts. I use it to do some digital modes. So I don't need it to do a lot. But I threw in the towel. I'm like, I'm gonna put Ubuntu on it. Oh, amazing! Like absolutely amazing. So I don't know. I think for you, that hardware is still good enough for what you need, right? Because all it's doing is serving those hard drives to your miner. Is that what it's doing now, or is it doing anything else?
It's just serving. Yeah. It just the plots are being exposed to the miner. It's
Yeah,
not mining. It's not doing anything. It's just
right.
sitting there serving those,
Well,
runs those drives.
and you know what's wild about that too is actually so the TrueNAS box that I was talking about, it is an I should actually look at what processor is in this thing. So this is the box I got from that guy who's getting rid of it. It is an i7 4790. So old, right? Even older than yours, right there. What I've been shocked by, and what I'm hoping actually gets better even tomorrow. So, like I said, I'm running Frigate on there. Well,
Mhm.
Frigate likes, I mean, Frigate has gotten really advanced. It does a lot of semantic search. It has some models in there for the object detection. Um, and right now, the way I have it is actually using the GPU object detection from my Unraid box. So it takes the objects and it sends it over because Frigate allows you to utilize Deep Stack on a different machine. So that is how I'm not able to, I'm kind of saving the CPU on this box. But one thing that I read about that a guy did, and he's like, oh, you'll be super impressed. Have you seen the Google Coral TPUs?
Uh-uh.
They're just so it's a USB stick, or they come in M.2 form factor. So either one. So you get a USB stick. Essentially, it's like a little AI accelerator. So for $60, you've got something that can run a model. So really cheap.
Oh, okay.
Think of it like if you need something that would need a graphics card, but not graphics, right? So
Right,
for me,
right.
think of like your Olama, right? When you're
Yep,
running your
yep.
AI, but it's really good for this sort of like object detection type work. So a
Mhm.
$60 USB stick plugged into a super old computer, all of a sudden that computer is still very viable for my
Yeah,
server needs,
yeah,
right? It's
yeah,
serving all my hard
yeah.
drives and it's also running it's running 9 4K cameras, my 9 4K security cameras, like a dream without breaking a sweat. And so that's I like finding ways that you can limp along these older machines and making them have a
Yeah,
second life,
yeah,
even if it's not doing what it used to do.
yeah. Well, speaking of that, I had the Moro data box that kind of crapped out on me, and I ended up doing some backup stuff. We talked about that here on the show. Um, I put Linux on it for it's just 2 gig of RAM, and I replaced it had a 1 terabyte spinner that was for all the storage, and I took that out and I put in a 250 gig SSD. So I put Linux on it because I wanted to see, okay, well, let's get a light version of Linux on it. Worked great. I could remote into a Windows desktop if I needed, I could go into the box and
Yep.
get to a Windows desktop if I needed to. But it's over by the whiskey collection. And one of the things I've been thinking about from an AI perspective is coming up with a way to keep track, an AI way to keep track of the whiskey. So
Mm,
what I really want to do is hold the bottle up to a camera and it scans it and says that, and it's that bottle and you got that much left in it. And then I put it on the shelf, keeps track of the collection. Well, okay, I'm not there yet. That's a little harder. That's going to take some Python code and some other stuff. It'll come in time. What I did find though is Android on x86 using Bliss, the Bliss OS. So
yeah.
have you ever heard of that?
I've heard
Like
of it,
I
but I haven't. No.
just found it this last week. I was like, so it's like, so both on my iPhone and the Android tablet that I have here up on the desk, I've been using Only Dram, which is a whiskey. It's just a whiskey bottle tracking application. And when you're in the store, you can bring it up and put a bottle in. And it'll tell you what the MSRP should be, right? It's that kind of stuff. Not super fancy. It does have a QR code scanner in it, so you can scan the bottle and it'll find the bottle, right? It's a cool little app, but it's only iOS and Android. And over there where the whiskey collection is, I don't have one of those devices. Now, can I carry my phone over there? Yes. Do I want a dedicated screen over there for the whiskey collection? Yes. So I started thinking, hey, wonder if I could get Android to run on. First of all, I thought maybe I'll run Android as an emulator on Linux, right? I got that working. It's not very good, to be honest. It was okay. And then I thought, are we to the point where we have good Android applications, not emulators, but how good does Android run on x86
Mm.
natively? Bliss, it's great. Like
Is Bliss
it's
from Samsung? Who?
Oh, that's a good question. I
Okay.
Yeah,
There was something with Samsung, and I couldn't remember if that was the exact one.
yeah. There it
I
says
don't think it
available.
is.
It
I don't
says
think this one
available
is.
for just about any Chromebook,
Okay.
PC, or tablet released in the last 10 years. Like,
Interesting.
talk about using old equipment, right?
Yeah.
If you just go to bliss.org, BLISSOS.org, blissos.org. And Mike, it's talk about breathing life. I mean, Android was built to run on nothing for the most part, right? And put it on top of talk about using old hardware. So we got it running. I have an Android instance. I can log into it. I could put it on a touch screen if I wanted to. This isn't a touch screen, but I could put it on a touch screen if I have a big 24-inch touch screen that I could use. I'm not gonna, but and get the screen orientation figured out. And guess what? That app just pops up on that screen right by the whiskey collection, and I can keyboard and mouse anything, which is kind of actually better for that kind of stuff than
Mhm.
so use the phone to enter it in, and then it just shows up in the database. And if I want to go through and look for any of that
That's
in,
genius.
yeah, that all of a sudden you're like, oh, if I can run Android on x86, that all of a sudden these apps that aren't available, okay, my Blue Eddy app, only iPhone and Android. And there's been some I bought an Android tablet just so I could run it there. Wait a minute, I could be running this on x86.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hadn't really thought all the way down that path. Like,
I hadn't
somehow
either.
this happened and I never knew,
Hmm.
you know? And I know it's been out there. Listen, people listening like, "Oh my god, Jim, it's been happening for 1,000 years. How could you not have known?"
But
I
it
didn't
takes the
know.
right use case, and it takes like that was you had a use case where like, okay, this would be a perfect solve for it before you really have to dive in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and it's just one of those kinds of things when you think like, "Hey, I have a app that I need and I don't necessarily where the phone or a tablet is not what you want." You know? And you're like, "Oh," and it runs on really crappy hardware. You know? So anyways,
Mhm.
that was one of these finds. You're like, "How did I miss this
Yeah.
for the the last 5 years? How did I not know this was even not a thing?" But you're right, it's use case, right?
Oh
You
yeah,
just
I mean
I
that
just
was me and the Coral TPU. Those corals are old, like
right.
they're old news. But until you have a use case, like I have a super old machine that doesn't have a graphics card in it, and it needs to have some sort of this object detection that is just hammering the CPU. And
Yeah.
oh, for a $60 USB stick, perfect.
Yeah.
And I've still just been really impressed with all the things you can run on Olama, and all the different models you can run. That Lava Vision model, just you feed it an image and you can ask it absolutely anything. And I think
Yeah.
I might have talked about this last time, but I mean, essentially now when I look back through my frigate footage, every single object it detects, there is this 2 paragraph long description describing what's going on in that scene.
Wow.
All and that is all done by every time frigate takes that, sends it over to my Olama model, asks it, hey, describe what's in the scene. And then when you go to semantic search, all of that, it's like metadata, right? You have a 2 paragraph metadata on what was going on there. And it's pretty it even this last time I noticed I looked at the car in the driveway and it said there's a lot of tracks in the snow in the driveway. Looks like this is a place where a lot of cars go in and out, a lot, probably a driveway. Just like something like that, that I would have been like, oh,
Yeah.
I guess I wouldn't have thought that it would have looked at the tracks in the snow and said, oh, this is a heavily trafficked area by vehicles. But just it's kind of interesting all the things you can do with those
Yeah.
models now.
Yeah. No, the model thing, we talked about this last week with Christian, and I talked about Jeff C, a friend, he's been on before. He's going to come on. We're going to talk about the modularization of AI, in that we're
Mm,
getting really good at these very specialized AI models. By themselves, they're helpful, but as we start talking about communications or cross modeling, in other words, the if this then that, or the Zapier of models, so that you can bring models in and then run them all together, or one model calls another model and says, "Hey, I need this kind of information. I know where that's at. I can call this model that's specialized." Like, what you're doing with that.
yeah.
So yeah,
And I mean, just the fact that like you can run DeepSeek, like when DeepSeek came out with their model that you can run on this type of hardware,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
fascinating. I
yeah,
will say, like everyone in our community is gonna groan. But I had this aha moment of how I can describe how useful AI can be to any business person who's ever had to send an email.
Yeah.
And what happened was I had a list of like 150 people that I needed to input into a new system that we're running. The system needed comma delineated, and I had this meeting invite that had everyone in it that I needed. I'm like, okay. But when you copy and paste out of Outlook, you know how it gives you the name of the person in parentheses, and then then their email followed by parentheses. And I'm like, no, I just need the email addresses, but it won't let you copy just the email. I was like, wait, I just went to ChatGPT, right? Said, hey, can you strip just the emails out of this and give them to me in a comma delineated list? 2 seconds, done.
Yeah. No, for
In the
sure.
past, I would have gone to Excel and I would have
Yeah.
done all the,
Yeah.
found a different way.
Yeah.
And all of us nerds have our different ways we would have tackled that problem. This
Yeah.
was a 5-second solution.
Yeah.
And it's just like that's kind of manipulation and context of exactly what I was looking for. And what I like actually is when I run it on my own one, and you might be able to do this in ChatGPT too, but I don't know. You can click in and see its reasoning on how it thought through that problem.
Mhm.
Because it even
Mhm.
went through and then it's like,
Mhm.
oh, hey, I noticed that this email's in there twice. He didn't tell me I wasn't asked to eliminate duplicates.
But you
But
could.
and it was
You
reasoning
could have.
out yeah, but I
Yeah.
could have. And so it said, so I'm going to include it anyway. And then, it was just the way it thought through, it was kind of creepy because it's exactly like if I had asked my 8-year-old
Yeah.
to do this task
Yeah.
and I said, tell me out loud what you're thinking. It's kind of what it was typing. Like,
Yeah.
well, you asked me to do this, so I'll probably just go through and I'll do this,
Yeah.
and then you ask for a comma separated list. I think you'll probably want the space after the comma, not before. That seems to be standard. It's really cool. But like that was my perfect example of like, okay, like
Yeah.
time saving. Because
Yes.
I think a lot of people are like, yeah, like when would I ever use that in my day? I'm like, here's a good example. Data manipulation, even if you're not a developer, you will probably have to do something like this before.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the Excel code sometimes Excel by itself, the figured out the
Oh,
code to
Excel code is amazing.
yeah.
Amazing with
Well,
AI.
I had so just today I had 1,700 records in an Excel spreadsheet, email names, emails, addresses, zip codes. And I said, and I thought, okay, I'd like to just based on email and count for me the number of people inside organizations and then tell me that organization, what the industry that organization is in. So it
Oh, that's smart.
yeah. So it went back through and then it said so it brought back through, of course the higher counts were like yahoo.com and hotmail.com and google.com. And then I
Right.
said, okay, do the same thing, but eliminate and you start filling stuff in. And then it would bring up another list and I'd find, okay, I don't want those. I would take that. I don't want Gallup.com, take those out.
Right.
And so you just keep building on this query, right? Type deal. And in the end, what I got was a real solid count. Like if I wanted to know the organizations that were represented by that email list, you could do that and then ask ChatGPT to give you information about those organizations. Like, then tell me how big those organizations are, or then tell me what was the publicly posted revenue of that. Like, this is all of a sudden where that gets super cool, right? Like you said, you could do all that in Excel with formulas and stuff, but you're not calling like now. Okay, so maybe Google's one of the companies that's in our email address, but it Excel's not. I mean, I guess I could, but I can't just ask it. Now go tell me what the revenue of Google is and bring it
No.
in,
Yeah.
right? So that was an interesting for me. That was an interesting, like
That's a
it was
really good use
it was a
case.
case study, right?
Because that's combining data manipulation along with outside context that I
yeah,
need.
yeah,
Doing
yeah,
research for me while manipulating my data. I mean, you kind of have your own little data scientist there with you,
yeah,
right? Where that
yeah.
that would have been a project you would have asked
It's a data
maybe
science
an
intern.
intern. It's a data science intern. That's
Yeah.
exactly right.
Hey, I need
It's
you to go study this, right?
yeah.
Kind of thing.
Hey, I have this
Yeah,
cool list for
it's
you.
super cool, and it all came from a morning meeting I was in where somebody had asked a question like, "Hey, so do we know?" Then fill in the blank, and I was like, "Huh, yeah." In the past, I would have said no, and in the meeting, we said, "Yeah, that's a hard number to get to." And then I thought, "Is it hard to get to now? Like, can I?" I think I can do this. Now, I have a 1 meg limit on the version of ChatGPT or a Copilot, our internal Copilot that blocks data from going. Like we
Yeah,
have our own, right, keeps data from going out of the outside of the organization. Um, has a limit, but I could just ask somebody, hey, can you raise can you raise my limit to to 10 gig or 10 meg. I mean, Excel files aren't that big. So, yeah, there's some cool stuff they can do. Joe says he says I do find Copilot hallucinates quite a bit, but it does usually help me get to the end goal. I think sometimes, yeah, yeah, I know it absolutely can. Listen, you gotta. This is one of those things. Like, as I start asking it to count things, like you have to verify that it's counting the right things.
yeah,
So if you're looking for accurate balance to the penny kind of stuff, it's probably not the right thing to do. But if I'm trying to get a general feel, if I got a big customer database in this case, and I was trying to get a feel for based on their email domains, give me a percentage of this, of who's in this, group them by industry. Tell me the revenue, break them down by revenue of those organizations. And I want to know if they're enterprise or if they're education,
yeah.
right? That I mean, that's and that could you do that in Excel? Totally. Can you do it in ChatGPT in about 3 seconds? Yes.
That's
Yeah.
the game changer. It's just speed and efficiency.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Joe saying, hallucination on Copilot. I do one quick update. I don't know if anyone else joined me in getting the Home Assistant voice box that they came out with. It's in early beta, so pre-order started in December. Essentially, it is what they're trying to get to is could you have your own self-hosted Amazon Alexa? Right?
Yeah.
Could you do that? So
Yeah.
they came out with a hardware box for it. It's just a small rectangle, very flat. It's got a dial that is the exact same as the. Do you remember the iPod where it would spin around and you
Yeah.
click in the middle and it physically spins?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the dial on top.
Oh,
I was
that's pretty
pretty
cool.
pumped for it. I can't remember how much they cost right now. I want to say right around like 30, 40 ish dollars.
Oh, that's not terrible.
Not terrible. Setup process was a breeze. Um, it's terrible. It it doesn't know what I'm saying. Like Hannah was
Oh
laughing
boy.
so hard because
Oh boy.
my nightstand is kind of known as like the tech collection because it's where I have a million things charging. I have 3 Meshtastic devices sitting on my nightstand,
Yeah.
everything. And so she's like, "What's the new one?" And I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be great. Like if this is good, I could replace all the Amazon devices in the house." She goes, "Okay." And all I was trying to do was turn the lights off, and it was like, I don't know what scissors are. And I'm like, I didn't say scissors. I said, can you please turn off the lights? And then I was trying everything, and it got maybe 30% of the time. Now, this was the right out of the box. I got to play with some settings. I got to tweak some
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what it really highlighted to me was, man, like voice combined with contextual understanding what you're saying, tying into what you're exactly trying to do, especially in home automation, that's a tall task.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think my favorite part about the device is they do have Hey Jarvis as the one of the
Oh,
big words.
good.
There's
Oh,
Hey
nice.
Nabu, which is Nabu Casa, their company, or Hey Jarvis. So I have the Jarvis one. It does do a really good job. I mean, they even talked about it last year how hard getting a wake word is, like how
Yeah.
hard it is to set up a piece of hardware that's only listening and activating on a word. It does really well. It will respond when
Yeah.
I say "Hey Jarvis," but the processing time and what it thinks it's hearing, that's going to take some
Yeah.
work.
They'll have to. I mean, they got some catching up to do, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I
Well,
do
and they're trying
think.
to do it on your local hardware.
Right.
So,
Right.
right, like it all depends. And I have a pretty
Yeah.
beefy Home Assistant box. You can use the Home Assistant cloud for processing, and apparently that's really good. But
Yeah.
to me, that kind of like, no, like if I'm going to do this, I'm either going to use Amazon or I want this to all run on my hardware.
Yeah.
So I've got to play around with it some more. But it was interesting.
Can you once you have the box set up, can another device with a microphone integrate in with it, and you use that microphone to run
Not
the.
not with their box, but
Okay.
people over the last year have because the
I need to get
software
Gavin
side
on
of it
here.
has been done. So
Yeah.
the software side has been in Home Assistant for a while. So guys were making some makes. I took kind of the recipe that this guy did of like different hardware you can buy, ESP32 with this sort of microphone. They're janky looking, and then you got a 3D printed case.
Yeah.
So this was kind of Home Assistant's like, hey, here's like a pre-made option. I think what they're trying to do though is, yes, to your point, it needs better microphones,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
some of those things you could start to play around with. It does have, all it has on it is USB-C for power, and it does have speaker out, so you could stream music. Kind of like the Echo Dot has the aux out,
Yeah.
so does the
Yeah.
Home Assistant box.
I'm hearing rumors that there's a big upgrade coming for the A lady.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the rumors, just quiet whispers of folks are saying, yeah, they're getting
Like,
ready to release a new version of it that's way more powerful.
mm,
And when I say way more powerful, I mean able to do multiple commands.
okay.
So, do this and then this kind of deal, which today it's terrible. It doing some, although it's so funny I say that. It's a miracle it does what it does. It's just all the things that we take for granted on that box. I put a show in the room I sleep in, and that thing, like, it's a clock, and then you turn the lights off, and within 3 seconds it switches over to its night vision thing of the clock, and then it goes blank. And then if I pop up my head, it comes back on. It's like, oh, you're looking at me. Okay, kind of thing. Oh, I'll give you the time. And that's probably
Uh-huh.
what you're looking for, right? So yeah, I think we may in the next 9 to 12 months see some beta stuff come from them. So
Well,
um
I'm such a fan of, I think I talked about this last time. I use the talking to ChatGPT feature in the app, and on my drive to work, I
yeah,
talk I
yeah,
talk to ChatGPT, and
yeah,
it's like my personal
yeah,
assistant.
yeah,
W- why don't we have something like that built into these devices? Like, I would be shocked if we didn't get a ChatGPT box where I could do exactly what I'm doing through that
yeah,
app,
yeah.
with a
It's very
device,
possible.
right?
It's
And
very
that
possible.
type of very
Yeah,
natural conversation can handle all sorts of requests, can
yeah.
remember things about you. I mean,
Well,
that's
the
really what I
remember things
want.
about you, Mike, is the hard part. Like,
Yeah,
this is the thing. ChatGPT has that built in now in some regards, but we still have some things to figure out on all the security of getting those things remembered.
right,
And you can now in ChatGPT say, this, put in some data, and then say, remember this,
right.
and it's got a database, right?
Yes.
That's tied to your account.
But
Um,
that's where I was excited for the Home Assistant box, because I have that power with Olama sitting
right.
in my server rack.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, just let me have a conversation with that naturally.
Yeah.
I can do it actually sitting in front of my computer. I can do the same exact thing through the web browser with my Olama instance. It's fantastic. I
Yeah.
just am not always sitting in front of my computer, and they don't have an app the way I do it through the phone yet. But I'm like, just give me this experience in more
Mhm.
places, and I would
Mhm.
be a very happy camper.
For sure. Joe says, he says, was trying to find some YAML code to make a sensor work with this other piece of equipment. It gave me an answer. It didn't work. When I told it didn't work, it provided the right answer. That's pretty awesome. And
Uh-huh.
that's the kind of stuff, it's, that this is the thing I think we forget. You got it when it's wrong, it can be wrong. Just tell it it's wrong. It'll
Yeah.
apologize and then try something else.
Yeah.
And so it's not going to be 100% out the gate. Brian says updates for the A lady, but he also heard it'll likely have additional subscription costs too.
Oh,
Doesn't surprise me. That won't last long. AI subscription stuff is the cat's out of the bag. It's a race to the bottom on this. They're all getting included in stuff. No, it doesn't mean it's going to be free. It just means, Microsoft model is included in Office 365. Google, you got to buy their subscription piece. They'll get included in. I think the days of AI by itself being a subscription, for the most part, are pretty much over. I don't think we'll see too much more of that in the future here. They're all going to get blended into their products. Now, there will always be maybe like, not propensity. What's that one called? I want to say complexity. All I have is some exity. Why can't I remember this? Anyways, there may be one or two in the future that stands alone on its own. It's got enough to do that. But I think most of the major players, certainly Facebook it'll be a meta thing that works with their headsets or works with Facebook. I tell you what, I hadn't thought of this till now. The metaverse may be the right place for AI, from being able to do things like in 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 the metaverse. Sometimes doing stuff is really difficult.
Yeah.
Like, you're just like, this is way hard. And you're not writing code, but like, it's way harder than it needs to be. And I kind of wonder, the metaverse would be the place to say, hey, can you make this for me right now? And it just does it, like the AI. And maybe that's already there. I don't know. I haven't put my headset on in a while,
I hadn't
but
thought about that either, but you're totally right.
yeah.
Pop me in the metaverse and be like, "Hey, can you put a 40-inch screen in front of me? I'm gonna do some work right now. Place this over here. I'm kind of trying to do this." And like, it's a world that's being created by code.
Yeah.
Let it do it. Like,
Yeah.
that's a
No.
that's a
Yeah.
really good
That
point.
seems like that would be the natural place for that natural language AI
Yeah,
to really flourish. Like, because I get into it and I start moving around, I can't find places, and I'm like, how do I get out of this? How do I do this? How does this work
I
again?
think
Like,
I've spent all of 10 minutes in the metaverse. I'm just usually
yeah,
playing their games, but I
yeah.
spend a lot of time in my VR headset. Still do. I've been addicted to it
Well,
still.
but all of a sudden
But
it just becomes an extended desktop at that
yeah,
point, you're kind of perplexity. Yeah, that's Tony said propensity, or it's perplexity. Yeah, he said propensity first, and then no, it's perplexity. Yeah, those are that could stand. But yeah, you would think that would be the perfect place for, because you don't want to. Yeah, I don't want hand controllers. I just want to say, you know, I want to leave the room,
yeah.
and whatever. Anyways.
And then
Hey,
just tap
Mike.
in my brain so I don't have to say it. I can just think it.
Yeah, there you go. Ooh, I'm not
I'm
sure.
not giving that
I'm
power
not
back
sure it wants to
ever.
tap this thing. It would be like, you're too dumb for this. Anything else, Mike?
No, no. We should make this, come back every month or so
Yeah,
whenever.
we'll schedule you. We'll
Yeah,
look on the way out here. We'll look post show. We'll look and see what's available for
yeah.
you.
And
So
like I said,
yeah,
I'll post updates on the board game in the chat
good.
for you guys. Really
Yeah,
appreciate you guys
yeah,
asking, and
yeah.
yeah,
Sounds good. Okay, hang with me real quick. We'll remind everyone to, if you want to join us, I mentioned earlier, if you want to join in the Discord group, it's really not a lot going on there, which is nice. But when we need something, you can post it there. Hit it theaverageguy.tv/Discord. Send me an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv, if you want to, for any kind of conversations. Neil, I haven't heard from you in a while, so send me an email, Neil. It's always nice to hear from you. And then don't forget this, the averageguy.tv platform, both web and media hosting, powered by Maple Grove Partners. Of course, that's Christian. Get secure, reliable host, high-speed hosting from people that you know and you trust. For more information, visit Maple Grove Partners, all one word, .com. We are live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out here at the averageguy.tv/live. Love to have you out here. A big thanks to Brian. Tony Rayner was out there. I saw Joe checking in. Justin was out with us. Ryan had joined us. Ken took the night off. He's always here, but Ken took the night off. And it could be you. You could be in there feeding us information in chat. And come out and join us. You can head out to theaverageguy.tv/live if you want to. Or we have a YouTube channel. I have two, actually. I have a live one and a recorded one you can subscribe to, and I'll just let you know when we're here. We'll be back, I think, next Thursday. I don't have it filled in yet, but I'll figure out how to get it in. And then we booked Jeff C. is coming the week after that. And I'm working on Bob and Ryan, see if we can get them on, catch
nice.
up with what's going on with thinkcomputers.org. We'll be back probably next week. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody. Man, that Mucinex is kicking my ass. Jeez. Holy buckets.
I can tell there was like a 10-second span there. I'm like, I think he's just like, whew, man, like
My body does not know what's happening right now. Whew. I switched over to water. I was like, I can't. Oh, holy buckets. Anyways, guys, thanks for coming out. I'm gonna get Mike off to bed here, and we'll plan his next adventure. But we'll see you guys hopefully next week. I'll figure out something for next week. And thanks for coming.